the kind of economic system that we have in the world today will not produce sustainable development on its own. In other words, the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted because the way the world economy works does not produce the kind of outcomes we want. The world economy works quite well in producing output. It works quite well in producing profits. It works quite well in producing economic growth. So what's the problem? Sustainable development means not only the level of economic output, but the fairness of the society. Are the returns to the economy shared widely, first between men and women? Are they shared widely across different groups in the society? Are they shared fairly around the world? And the answer there is clearly no. There's nothing intrinsically fair with how the market economy operates. It really does leave a lot of people behind. It produces a lot of injustice and a lot of suffering. Even in a rich world, there are 1 billion people in absolutely desperate poverty that still need help. And the market doesn't help those people. They don't have purchasing power. The market's not very interested in them, not until they get rich. And the second thing that the market economy does not do, evidently, is to protect the environment. Our use of fossil fuels is causing global warming, and the consequences of global warming, we know, are already extraordinarily dangerous. We're still in the early stage of what could happen if we don't get this under control. But the market system is not going to get it under control by itself. And the other environmental catastrophe is the way we use land. And we've increasingly taken over the use of land for our farms, for our cattle ranches, for our cities, for our amusement, for our pollutants, so that we have created a disaster for other species. And the scientists tell us that we're creating one of the greatest extinction processes in the history of Earth. So what do we have to do? First, we have to get some control on how the economic system functions. We need governments that are effective in regulating the economy in ways that are more fair and more environmentally sustainable. So the first thing that Sustainable Development Goals require us to do is to plan, or even more simply, to think. The second thing we need to do is think hard about the future of technology. So we have to be making conscious choices about technology. We have to say no more coal-fired power plants, and it's not to be left to the marketplace, in my view. It's to be left to our safety and our well-being. And of course, one thing a wise government does, or a wise world, is to invest in technological advancement. A third part of the Sustainable Development Goals that is different, I believe, from the past is the vital need for regional cooperation. A final part is the financial system has to be a bit different, because most of sustainable development financing is pretty complicated. Banks can't do it by themselves because the problems are more complicated than simply making money. And that makes the challenge a different kind. Right now, about 5.5 million kids die every year of poverty. It's shocking. It's cruelty. It's stupidity on our part, because we're not paying attention to mobilize the added financing that is needed to help the poor countries manage clinics and healthcare systems and community health workers and the medicines that they need. So what stops us from doing the right thing? First, of course, are the vested interests. Sustainable development requires a different kind of economy. But if you happen to be an oil company, you don't like the message that they pay a fortune to buy our congressmen. They pay for the campaigns of the senators and the congressmen. Our government is very corrupt. The other part of it is, I don't know what it is, but in my country, the politicians are more interested in war than they are in well-being. You go to lots of meetings, and as soon as the heads of state get together, they generally put aside the sustainable development issues, and they want to talk about war, they want to talk about security, they want to talk about new weapon systems. We cannot be safe this way. So we need to get a grip and get the politicians focused on the long term. But the universities are the institutions that can look ahead. They're the institutions that can mobilize knowledge. They're the institutions that don't have vested interests. They're the institutions that are not out for a profit. They're the institutions looking for truth. And one of the greatest things of a university is that they're the institutions of young people. So we're looking forward to your leadership, to Korea's incredible capacity to look ahead and forge ahead. We're counting on you to make the technologies of the sustainable future here, and we're going to get this done. Thank you very much.